And on Friday, you appeared with Andrew Tate on the Disruptors podcast. It was a very interesting and also very highly publicised conversation.
Yeah.
Tate's obviously a very controversial person and he's facing a number of serious criminal allegations. What drew you to do this episode with him and how did you find the experience?
I guess what drew me towards him is we have a lot in common. And I don't just mean some of our beliefs and thoughts, but in terms of we're both very hated by the public. The media paint us in the worst light possible. And he said in a podcast, like the media and online, I get so much hate. And he said, everyone speaks so negatively about me. He said, but in person, everyone speaks so positively. Everyone knows I'm polite and respectful. And I was like, that's the same with me. Online, I'm this villain. Everyone hates me. They think I'm a predator. They think I'm disgusting. In person, anyone that's met me will say how polite I am, how respectful, how I discuss boundaries, how I'm, in a way, shy. I'm not what the media make out. And I was like, I can really relate to having been painted in a bad light. And yes, he has allegations against him. But I also get told all the time, I'm a predator, I'm a groomer. And there's no facts behind that. There's no evidence of that at all. Yet the papers and the media still paint me in that light. So I was like, I actually just want to meet him myself and be the judge of what I think he's like. Because what one person says about you online is very different to what, is the truth.
This is something you touched on in that episode. Speaking about sort of modern masculinity and where it sits, do you think there is a kind of crisis of modern masculinity? And if so, what issues are you observing in terms of masculinity and what changes do you think there need to be societally?
It's hard because I actually try not to get too much into it. There's so much I don't understand. And I always say, like, I honestly couldn't tell you to a certain degree what's going on in the world. I'm so focused on myself and the people that are in my close net. I'm quite oblivious to some of the issues that are going off. I'm not saying that's the right way, but I also know even if I sat there and learned everything there is to learn, you can't trust the press. You can't trust what's in the news. So how am I meant to educate myself on what's actually going on? I think there's not necessarily a lack. It's so hard to say. Everyone is so different. There's not, like, I think when you look back to the olden days, you could summarize a guy. You would say, okay, he's going to be so confident. He's going to tell his wife what to do, when to do things. He's going to go to work, earn the money, and go back. And that was, you could sort of summarize men as a whole because that's what it was like. Nowadays, that's not the case. And I think that's good. Like, if the guy wants to be a stay-at-home dad, that's absolutely fine. And I don't think you have to be super masculine as a guy. Like it sounds so cliche, but as long as you're happy and you're not doing harm by anyone, who cares what people think about you?
You've obviously become highly visible in a very short space of time. And an often quite polarizing figure in online conversations around sex, power, and gender. How would you describe your role in today's online gender politics?
To be fair, the whole politics around gender, I don't get too involved in. There's a lot I think I disagree with. However, I'm very open to learning about, I say different genders. In my eyes, there's sort of three genders. You've got male and female and you've got transgender. And that's sort of my thoughts. There's no cats, there's no objects, there's no in-betweens. It's one or the other. I think like in the US, there's from like very young age, you can be given medicine to people, children, to like hormone stoppers or hormone blockers, even without the parents' permission. And I just think, and that happens from as early as 8 years old. I'm like, wow, that is crazy. That is very, very young. And if you're confusing someone from a young age, of course they're going to be confused. Like, I think there should be conversation around it. And yes, people can be transgender. That's no problem. But let's not be confusing people.
Do you consider yourself a feminist? And if so, what does that word mean to you in 2025?
I wouldn't say I'm not a feminist. I generally sit on the fence with it. And I think a lot of people, when they say they're a feminist, they're really, really strong. They're doing petitions and they don't stop talking about it. I do believe things should be equal. I do believe women should have a voice and they should be in control of what they want to be in control with. A lot of people say I actually bring women back 100 years, but I'm a clear example of a lady that's taken full control of the body. Women have fought for women to be able to choose what they want to do. And if they don't want to be a stay-at-home mom of two, that's no problem. I'm a clear example of that. So I'm the opposite of what women when they're saying I've took women back 100 years, I'm the complete opposite of that. I'm showing, okay, this is to a certain degree what feminism have asked for, a woman that can take control. I don't feel intimidated by men. I'm actually paid more than guys in my industry. I have a complete voice and I don't, ever feel taken advantage of. So hard to say. Yes, a lot of my beliefs fall into the feminism space, but there's a lot I disagree with as well.
And a lot of your content involves what you describe as barely legal adults. Thinking
Yeah.
about that, I know this is something you've addressed in the media a lot. Do you think that the men that are involved in your content fully understand the long-term implications of being involved in kind of public sex work?
Yeah, 100%. 18-year-olds have been brought up with the internet more than I have. They understand digital footprint. And say if their mum was to bring home a phone and say, hey, how do I use this? They're going to be asking their son because they know the son understands the internet, the digital footprint, technology a lot more than what the older generation do. So I find it very hypocritical when it's the older generation that say, they don't understand the internet, they don't understand this. But I can guarantee you the first time they have a question about the internet or online things, they're going to be asking their son or daughter because they know the younger generation have a much better understanding. And I've said many times before, but 18-year-olds, they go to army, they get given guns, they're allowed to do so much, they're allowed to drive. Putting them on a road, if you think an 18-year-old is irresponsible, it's so much more dangerous as opposed to me putting them in a controlled environment to have sex. Yes, they can be dangerous in sex, and yes, you could get injured, but I'm accepting, okay, yep, I'm handing my body over to this 18-year-old for this video and I consent to that. But if we're saying 18-year-olds don't understand, the repercussions or what they're getting themselves into, then why is an 18-year-old able to drive? Why are they allowed to go to the army? There's much more concerning issues if we want to try and belittle an 18-year-old. Like if an 18-year-old murdered someone, they'd be tried at adult court.
Yeah.
So they are allowed to have sex. Sex is actually not a massive thing. It's, it's not a big deal in comparison to what an 18-year-old is allowed to do.
Yeah, if they can, do you take this sort of mindset if they can drink, drive, vote, join the army?
Yeah. Then sex really is so insignificant in comparison to the army. I think we like to belittle 18-year-olds when we want. And if an 18-year-old's to murder someone, it'd be, they should know better. They're 18, they're an adult. Yet when I talk about having sex with an 18-year-old, they suddenly like to say, that's a child. They don't know what to do and they don't know what they're letting themselves into. There's no consistency with it. We like to belittle them when it comes to sex. And if it's murder, driving, or doing something illegal, we suddenly like to hold them accountable. So it's not consistent at all. But I believe an 18-year-old does fully know what they're doing. But that's like anyone. A 40-year-old will do something and not understand the repercussions of it. That can happen at any age, not just 18.
Where are you planning to go next in terms of uploading your content? And would you ever consider creating your own platform?
Possibly. My next step is I've just switched to Fansly, which is a much more sex worker friendly platform. I don't know how much you know about OnlyFans, but I can't remember what year it is, but they tried to put a ban on all sex content.
Yeah, I remember
They did that for 6 days and realised they're not the yoga retreat platform they make out they are, and they will earn zero income if they ban sex. Because even if you go on OnlyFans homepage, it's yoga, it's cooking shows. They try and promote a much more lifestyle, and that isn't OnlyFans. Yes, you can do that, but that isn't where the income's coming from. Whereas Fansly are much more open about it's sex work. They promote and they sponsor the AVNs and the XBiz, which are porn awards. So I think Fansly will be much better suited for me, short term and long term, because they're proud of the sex workers and they're not wanting to shame them.
You've obviously faced so much backlash over the past 12 months. Do you agree with that kind of timeline, or has it been longer for you?
It's been a bit longer. It's definitely ramped up in the last sort of 6 months. But I mean, when you're a sex worker, you get hate regardless. Yeah. You're disgusting, you're a prostitute, slut, whore. You get it all anyway. But obviously, the more you're in the press, the more you speak about it, the more you get views. Of course, that is going to increase. But yeah, I'd say the last 6 months, probably even a bit longer, 9 months, it is really, really increased. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think this criticism is valid, and how do you kind of navigate it mentally? Because it must be a lot for one person to metabolize.
It is and it isn't, because, for example, even the hate I got from OnlyFans saying, oh, we're going to give you loads of hate because you broke our T's and C's. Okay, well, where's the facts? Where's the evidence that I ever broke a terms and conditions? I get called predator all the time and groomer. It's like I sleep with 18-year-olds. I'm not a predator. I'm not a groomer. And God, the list goes on. Recently I've got loads of hate saying I'm transgender.
Yeah, I saw this.
Apparently my name used to be, well, there's a few. Apparently one I was called Bobby, the other one Tim, another one called Kyle. And I just look at that and think, how can I be offended? How can I be taking your comments to heart? Because I'm not transgender. So why should I be bothered that so many uneducated people are just going to make up rumors? And I even got the blame for that. There was an article saying Bonnie Blue's transgender story is another hoax just to get views. It's like I never even made that up. I never even spoke about that. Yet I get the blame for it. So if the hate comments was valid and they had facts behind them, I'd probably be offended. But when it is just coming from poorly uneducated people that know nothing about me, I'm like, how can I be hurt by him? I just find him entertaining.
Looking at the space of the digital world, things are very polarized in terms of gender and feminism. There's sort of so many different depictions of femininity online. One of which is really dominant at the moment, is the sort of tradwife archetype, which is, hyper feminine and submissive and domesticated. What's your take on this trend from your position as a very high profile and quite highly powered sex worker?
Like I said, it's always hard to touch on because people have got strong beliefs on it, but I don't think you have to be submissive. I don't think it's what you want. Like, I've got some friends and I know some people that just want to be super submissive. They just want to be a stay-at-home mom. They want to do the cooking, the cleaning, and they just want their partner to give them the rules. And they like that. And I think as long as you enjoy that and that makes you happy, I don't care that you don't want to go to work. I don't care that you don't want to feel empowered, that you can go in the same salary as a guy in an office. So yeah, I'm honestly just not bothered. I think as long as it makes you happy and as long as the people around you aren't being hurt, who am I to sit and say, no, you have to go and get a job? But also if a woman wants to leave the partner because the partner's being controlling and they want to earn their own money, they want to become a sex worker, or they want to become a CEO of a business, then go and do that, because we're in a world where you can. I'm not saying women always have the easiest of journeys, but you can go and do what you want to do. And if sometimes you're feeling like the world's not letting you, it's because you're being affected by comments, because you're allowing the comments to, you're basically being too sensitive, because we are in a world where you can speak up, you can grow in a business, you can be independent. So people need to take more control of their lives. A lot of people, and especially women, like to blame the people around them as opposed to taking accountability. Sometimes if you're not getting a salary increase, it's instantly blamed on the guys around them or the company. It's like, okay, well, have you asked for a salary increase? Have you proven your sales stats? Because if you haven't, stop playing victim. But yeah, I think we are in a position where women can speak up, women are in power, and you need to take advantage of that.
What is one word that you think people get wrong about you?
Oh gosh. I guess predator.
Yeah.
That I'm 46. I mean, that's a really common one. I don't know if you ever see that one. Yeah, like this is the other thing. When people say I was transgender recently, I'm like, the papers have also released photos of me from when I'm like 6 and 7 years old. So what are they? Is that me in 6 or 7? Or have you stolen them photos? Like that, and that's why I find it funny as opposed to like hurtful. I'm like, I just think I don't care. I'm happy. Everyone around me is happy. Everyone I work with has a good interaction. So I don't care if the papers want to call me a predator online, because I know I'm not, and anyone I film with knows I'm not. But it's funny, because whenever I go to like a student filled area, or I went to spring break recently, sometimes even in the street, they'll be like, I'm barely legal, I'm a virgin, come and sleep with me. And the 18-year-olds and like the young generation, they just find it funny. They understand marketing more, so they're actually not offended if I say certain words, because they actually see the funny side of it, and they see this. They understand marketing a lot more than what middle-aged people do.
Yeah, I don't know if you feel that sometimes your content falls into the sort of rage baity genre, but there's definitely...
I'm purposely playing it for sure. Yeah. Like, I did a video with a dwarf recently, and I said I made some TikToks about it online, and I said, oh, I've recently slept with someone that's under 4 foot. They was too small to go on the rides. And I did them videos knowing that the middle-aged woman was going to be like, she's just confirmed she's a predator. She's just confirmed, like, and straight away they went, there's videos online going, she's just confirmed she slept with a 14-year-old. I'm like, did the word 14 ever come out of my mouth? Did the fact I said I slept with someone age ever come out of my mouth? No, you've assumed that, and then now you're making TikToks on that. But I knew they'd do that, which would help with the video. And I think people think I'm stupid or I'm not educated, and it's like the complete opposite. I see through so many people, and I understand me saying certain words, like barely legal, what effects that's going to have and how it's going to piss you off, which then allows me to promote my content more. Rage bait is good because people are so stupid. They're so poorly educated at times that I just play off that. If more people was clever, I wouldn't be as successful as I am.
And it's definitely like a generational thing, I think, in that, because younger generations are a lot more wise to it than older generations are, right?
Yeah, they understand clicky things. They understand that, you know, on TikTok, like during a podcast, there'll be very clickbait, but then it's because it's taken out of context, or we edit things to make it look a certain way for views, and they understand that a lot more than older people.
What responsibility, if any, do you feel you have to your audience?
Consent, discussing what's okay, what's not okay. And that's the biggest thing. And I actually get blamed for rape culture a lot, especially at the moment. There's been people that have been raped, which is terrible, have spoken out and saying they blame me for their rape. But then I look at that and I'm like, I'm not responsible. I wasn't the one that raped you. I wasn't the one that put you there. Like, it's, you know, use your platform to speak about the person that raped you, or speak about how maybe it could have been prevented. I'm not saying rape can always be prevented. It can't sometimes. It's so unpredictable and it just happens, which is disgusting. But consent is something I discuss before I've met someone, when I meet someone, during the video, during any intercourse with someone. I'm like, are you okay? Are you enjoying this? Are you having a good time? Let me know if you feel comfortable. Yeah, I'm blamed for rape. And I'm like, well, if you watch my videos, or if you ever have an interaction with me, you'll realize consent is heavily discussed throughout my interactions with people. So yeah, I say consent is the most important thing.